How's it going, everybody? I just wanted to give you another quick update. This is purely mechanic side of things. So today I had a Chrysler Town and Country come in. So for those of you who don't know, Chrysler Town and Country is basically a caravan, the Dodge Caravan. It's just a Chrysler version of it. A lot of the same parts. Chrysler is the upgraded version of the same thing. They're really nice vans. They really are. So this was a brake check. Buddy came in, asked us to do a brake check, and apparently he just recently did brakes. So fair enough. I take it for a drive. I find nothing wrong with it. I think the brakes are good. We did do a quick look at the brakes. Brake pads are new. Looks like the rotors are new. At least the fronts were new. I couldn't tell the rears are new or not. I think they were. And there was a lot of freedom of movement there, and the brakes felt really good. I didn't feel any vibrations or grinding or anything like that. So worked out pretty good. But then it dawned on me. I remember the van coming in, and I remember the wife or whoever the female friend was driving it. And I'm like, So I let the guys up front know that I think what's happening here is the wife's found an excuse to bring the vehicle in to do a brake check because she doesn't trust her husband's work. The work was good. The brakes were good. But apparently, when he came to pick it up, it's exactly what happened. He came in. The guys up front told him that there's nothing wrong with the brakes and it's good. And he's like, hold on a sec. He brings his wife in. This is what I've been told. I wasn't actually there when this happened. Brings his wife in and says, tell her what you told me. Tell her. And so, yeah, I guessed right. It was because she didn't trust his work that she found an excuse to bring the vehicle in so we could double check it. Happens more often than you think. Either someone's done the work and they want us to double check it, fine. Or they've done the work and there was one part of it they couldn't quite do, didn't know how to deal with it, so we deal with it. Once in a while, this happens. The husband, who's a handyman, knows what he's doing, sort of. The wife wants us to check it out because she doesn't trust that he knows what he's doing. And, but it turns out this case, he knew what he was doing. It actually worked out pretty good. So, oh, that was funny. We get all sorts of interesting pieces in there. The other one was we had a Pontiac Wave, little car, and this Pontiac Wave today, it wouldn't start. And I went to test the battery, and I stuck my positive lead for my tester in between the battery and the bolt that hold, or the battery terminal and the bolt that holds the battery terminal. All of a sudden, I was getting a little bit of arcing, and all of a sudden, the lights would come on. Well, that seemed kind of bizarre as my tester was touching the battery terminal the whole time. Why did it arc between the post, the battery post, and the bolt? Well, it turns out that positive lead, that positive terminal was on the post, the positive post, but it wasn't actually making contact. So what I did was took it off, cleaned it up, cleaned the post up, put them back together, positive and negative, put them back together properly. Car started right up, no problems. And it was charging, the alternator was charging. I didn't have any problems with it whatsoever. You know, this is what happens when, you know, it's a quick maintenance thing. There wasn't even corrosion. I don't even know what it was. It's almost like it was sprayed first and the spray over time became varnish, or I don't know. I don't know what it was. But once I cleaned it up, there was no problems. The car was good. So that's another example of someone's doing it themselves, but they didn't know what they were doing. They replaced the battery, put new terminals on, or sprayed them down before they made contact, and this is what ends up happening. Now, that could have cost him his battery if he drained it completely, and it could have cost him his alternator if he wasn't paying attention to what he was doing. But it didn't. All it was the service of the battery, and it worked just fine. He was lucky. But it was the owner who caused that problem in the first place. And this can happen. You get a varnish on the inside of your terminals. They don't touch the actual posts. They're not making contact. And it could progressively get worse over time. So this is what happened. This is what ended up happening. And we fixed it, and he went on his merry ways. Not too bad. I just wanted to give you a couple examples of what's been happening in the shop, what comes in, the stuff we tend to see. The one guy came in for a brake check today, and I checked the brakes, and his pads were super low. His rotors, you could see transfer of the pad material onto the rotors. There was a little vibration in the driving. So we called pads and rotors. He agreed. We changed pads and rotors and sent him on his merry way. And you know what? There was nothing that held me back from doing that job. Got it done in good time. It was a pretty straightforward job. It was in and out. No problems. We get, the basics like that. We get all kinds. So, but again, to attach this sort of to the last video that I did, when you do your own work, make sure you know what you're doing. Ask a mechanic friend beforehand, and as far as I'm concerned, I prefer that you didn't, but you got to learn somehow. Ask a mechanic friend beforehand the different steps you need to go through for whatever particular job you're doing. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Like I said, we get jobs sometimes where they're half done, or they got everything but that one bolt. They couldn't quite get it out, or they tried to get it out and screwed it up pretty bad. So now they're coming to us to try and figure out how to get that bolt out. And we have our tricks, right? We got a lot of different little tricks to get stuff out like that, but it happens. It happens. And we're not going to stop backyard mechanics from happening. It's just going to be part of, the whole mechanic life. They're everywhere, and nobody wants to pay full pop, so they'll go to a backyard mechanic because it's cheaper. But it's a gamble, and you're gambling with your life sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. So you got to make those choices, I guess. Anyways, I want to update you because it's kind of a continuation of what we were talking about yesterday. And I thought it was funny and appropriate. I wanted to show an example of that very thing where someone was working on their vehicle at home and didn't know what they were doing. So that Pontiac Wave, all it took was cleaning the terminals and the car was fine again. They figured that we were going to have to change the alternator and the battery. That's not how it went down. So that's why a mechanic is good, because we figure it out, we test, we find out the issue, and then we carry on. I think I've seen that once before. I don't think I've seen that too many times, where the actual terminal is glazed like that. Anyways, thought I would update you. Talk to you guys soon.